Hi there, this is Matt Wakeling and you're listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, produced here in Sydney, Australia, and zoomed all around the world through iTunes or Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'll speak to Joel McDonald, a fellow Sydney-sider, an absolutely fantastic guitar player. Joel plays with the legendary Rose Tattoo, who recently opened for Guns N' Roses on their massive world comeback tour. Joel also plays for Frankie's world-famous house band. Why are they world-famous? Well, you'll find out, because they truly are. And he also was the lead guitarist in Torch Le Monde, great band that he founded with his brother. And we'll hear some excerpts from that playing, so you get to hear Joel's amazing guitar playing in action. But before that, here's a few words from my good friends Mick and Jeff from the Amps and Axes podcast.
Hey, podcast world, I'm Jeff Bober.
And I'm Mick Marcelino of Amps and Axes.
That's right, and we've got a cool podcast that talks with guitarists,
manufacturers,
engineers,
and techs.
Yeah, so check us out every Saturday on iTunes.
And Google Play.
That's right.
And as we're always saying,
onward.
All right, there you go. Yeah, definitely check that show out. Amps and Axes. Jeff and Mick are great guys, and they run an excellent guitar podcast over in Baltimore in the States. All right, Joel McDonald. Now, this was one of those interviews where it just took us ages to get our schedules to line up, but we stuck at it. I'm glad we did, because we had a fantastic conversation. And first up, we're going to hear a bit of Joel's amazing playing with his band, Torch Le Monde. Joel McDonald, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thank you for having me. Good to finally be having this chat.
Now you're in Sydney. Have you always lived here? Were you brought up in Sydney?
Yeah. Always been in Sydney, mate. I grew up on the rough streets of the North Shore, around Mossman. It was pretty frightening and pretty
That's
hardcore.
Tough, yes.
Yeah. So to sort of keep out of trouble, I started sort of practicing guitar, and that was my little safe haven.
When did you start playing guitar?
I was 10, and it was one of those things at school where you'd sort of have this option like, now you should learn an instrument or something, and I didn't want to at all, It was just kind of one of those things, and I remember thinking, maybe the saxophone would be cool, and then I realised that under my mum's bed was an acoustic guitar, and I thought, we already own one, so I guess we'll have a go at that.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a year of those horrendously boring, uninspiring lessons that you have, when you're at school. And that sort of went on for about a year. And I remember there being a moment where I thought, oh, man, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's not interesting to me. And then around that same time, my uncle had come round to visit, and he had also played guitar, and he was talking to me about it. And he said, what do you want to do with it? And I said, it's not really interesting me. He says, well, what songs do you like? What do you want to play? And I remember at the time I just said, man, it'd be so cool to play, say, Under the Bridge, And then he just started playing it.
Wow.
And I thought, well, how did you do that? Because, if I was ever going to ask that to, the guy who was teaching me at school, he would just sort of shut that down right away and say, no, now we've got to, look at this piece of music and do this, So that's when I sort of realised that actually, it could be enjoyable. You can do it. You can play the stuff that you actually like and immediately get enjoyment out of it. And from there, that's when I sort of thought, oh, okay. And so he showed me how to play it. And, from then on, once you're actually enjoying what you're doing with it, then, the motivation kind of takes over and then you seek out, continuing on the path of learning. So it pretty much just went from there, and
Yeah.
then I was sort of excited about it, and
So is this around? Is this early '90s? I'm thinking Under the
yeah,
Bridge. That's Chili Peppers.
1992.
Okay.
1992. So I was 10
Yeah.
then, and so then from there it kind of went into Hendrix, Metallica, and all the other stuff that I was actually listening to on CDs at the time,
Cool.
and sort of was at that level of playing, and then it wasn't until 1990. Oh, and I started to learn from a guy who was teaching at the Institute of Music when I was still pretty young, and he was sort of right into jazz and showing me stuff, and he introduced me to Eric Johnson, and then that's when it totally kind of took off into a whole new level. So when I got into Eric Johnson, that for me was definitely when I kind of shifted into a different kind of a tier of playing, and mate, it was just like the whole kind of guitar world just opened up for me then, in terms of just what this guy was doing, and the sounds and the colors and the technique and all that stuff. Man, I was so obsessed with it for a couple of years actually.
Yeah.
Just seeking out every tab I could find, and every book, and mate, all the VHS, everything I could get, and all the CDs, and I really I did my best to learn every single thing that I could from what he'd put out, and that was one of the best things that for my playing, definitely, I would say.
Wow, very cool. Do you remember the first Eric Johnson tune your teacher showed you?
Well, Well, the first one he ever showed me was East West. It was that one off off RV and Musicom.
Yes, yeah.
Which was like really cool.
Yeah. Had all the octave stuff and the
and all the brushing with the thumb,
Yeah, beautiful.
all the hybrid picking and stuff. And then from that, I mean, everything else that I got into of his, man, I just loved it. And it was one of those things where I'd come home every day from school and start with the Tones CD, and then go to RV and Musicom, and then on to Venus Isle, and literally just play through all of those CDs as best I could.
Wow, cool.
I definitely kind of had shortcomings with some of his picking styles, which you can now find out. With YouTube, you can actually find out stuff that we just couldn't. We didn't have access to back then. You had to do so much of it by ear. So I just did as best I could with that. But even the chords, and man, it was so good. It was probably like the most exciting time in my development of playing, I would say.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. That's interesting you say that, because I talked to a bunch of guys, and all the YouTube stuff just was not around when most of us were learning, and you might find some tabs, but things like picking technique and stuff. You just had to work it out yourself, and you might be on a wrong path, or you might be honing in on something. But I think that's part of the discovery, which you can sort of miss these days with all the information around.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. So I guess you're obviously playing an electric by now. What was your first electric?
Yeah, it was a black Fender Squier, just like a Strat Squier.
Yeah, yep.
Which was really good. I had that for a couple of years, and then it got stolen. And then my first sort of good guitar, which I still own, which I got in 1997, was a black Les Paul Deluxe.
Nice.
That was a 1977
awesome.
model. So it was a good one, I mean, it wasn't that much. I think I paid like $1,500 for it or something. But that was the first good guitar that I owned, and pretty much from then, man, I used that for like 11. I didn't get my next guitar until 2007, so 10 years. I just used that. I pretty much just used that straight for 10 years.
Yeah, awesome.
There were some other pretty nice guitars that were in the family. My uncle owned some original Strats from the 60s and stuff like that, which I sort of had access to every once in a while. But yeah, man, it was pretty much that Les Paul, and ever since then, I mean, I've pretty much been a Les Paul guy Well, yeah, ever since then.
Uh-huh. Cool. Now with the deluxe, is that with the mini humbuckers?
Yeah, the
Yeah, they are
minis.
cool. They are very cool.
Yeah, they're so good, man. Sound really good. I mean, when I first started gigging, doing sort of like loud live gigs,
Mm-hmm.
they'd squeal a bit, just because of they just couldn't handle the heat.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got but I could pull such a good sound out of them. With low output pickups. I mean, they just to my ear, they always have a better sound than the really kind of like the hot aggressive pickups.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So is that the same with the other Les Pauls? Like, do you want to, while we're here,
Yeah,
let's talk through those.
yeah. Well, the one that I got in 2007 in Vegas is a white custom, and that was a pretty hot one. Like that's got those hot Les Paul custom pickups.
Mm-hmm.
I took those out and put in some low output ones, and the main guitar that I use now, which I've used for the last 4 years, is a 1959 reissue, and that's just a stock lemon burst one that I got from a dealer in the States, a guy called Mark from Mark's Guitar Loft. Has the best, the best that I've ever really sort of found in my searching and asking people who know about dealers and stuff. He has just awesome Les Pauls. So I took a punt really in terms of seeing one online and
Yeah, sure.
buying
That's a
one,
big thing if you can't play
buying
it.
one without actually ever touching it.
Uh-huh.
And that turned up at my doorstep, man, and that was just the best. I mean, I really kicked a goal with that one. That's just like one of the best sounding guitars I've ever heard, let alone owned.
Nice.
And that has just stock, low output PAFs in it.
Yeah.
Just a really simple guitar, but man, you can like it resonates. It sustains. It's just got it all. It's just got like such a wide kind of dimension. The sound to it, I don't need to do anything to it. I just sort of plug it in, dial in a bit of crunch on the amp, and then that's it. That's the perfect kind of rock sound to me.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And what amps are you running?
Splawn amps. There's a guy called Scott Splawn who used to make. I think he used to work for Marshall back in the day. He used to build Marshalls, and he went freelance. And his company's called Splawn, and yeah, the amps are Splawn, and it's basically just like a really great sounding Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
Sort of similar to your Bogners and that sort of thing. Not quite as well known, and hence actually way better priced.
Okay, great.
But to my ears, like I actually prefer them. For all the other great high-end amps out there, that's actually my favorite. Those Splawn. So I've got a few of those.
Yeah.
I've got like a couple of 50-watt versions, and then a 100-watt version, and I've got like a 50-watt version that I use that we got for Frankie's to be part of the house rig there for myself
awesome.
and all the other guitarists that play there. So yeah, man, I was really lucky to when we got that gig, the guys just said, man, just tell us what gear you want, and it'll be yours ongoing.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
That's the best.
really so good, man. We were very lucky with that one. Still very lucky with that gig.
Cool, man. Yeah, I definitely want to dig into that whole gig. 'Cause that's brilliant. But that's awesome with the rigs. And you're not a big pedal guy, I've heard.
Oh, mate, I'm not really. I'm not. I mean, maybe compared to some people I am, but mate, I try to keep it as simple as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
I basically just got a wah, a delay, and an overdrive, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm never using more than one pedal sort of at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just try and really, if you've got a good guitar and a good amp,
Yeah, sure.
and confident hands, then mate, anything else you got to really sort of ask yourself, do I need this do I need anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously if you're going for a solo or you really do need something else, then yeah, kick it in. But mate, I really try and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, cool.
So I've got like a couple of wahs by Real McCoy.
Yep.
So I've got that picture wah, and I've got the Real McCoy 10. So they're there. Sometimes if I want to use them, I've got a T-Rex replica delay.
Oh yeah, yep.
Which is awesome, such a great delay. And I've got that little TC Electronic flashback one as a little smaller alternative if I'm traveling and I just need to chuck it on a really small board.
Okay, yep.
And what else do I have? Oh, just those little for solos. I always just use that little Maxon 808, which is just basically
classic.
like a little, just like a little 808 tube screamer.
Yeah.
And that's it, man. I mean, that's really all I use.
Cool.
I've got like I own some pretty nice pedals. Like I've got that old Big Boss chorus ensemble from the 70s.
Oh yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
The big sort of grey unit.
Yeah, I've got that one that Andy Summers had, and I've got like a proper sort of like a replica of that by a company called Retrosonic. So there's the Retrosonic chorus, which does a 9-volt version of that. And just some other ones like that. I've got which I've just had for years. Which I don't really use them in the live setting. Man, I try and keep it as simple as possible.
Sure, cool, nice. So have you got the Splawn amps already kind of rocking pretty hard, and then the 808 just sort of is like an extra kick in the front for the for your solos?
Yeah, the Splawn amp has sort of 3 stages to it. It's the first gear is kind of like a plexi, and then the second you can put it into kind of 800, like JCM 800 territory, and then the third gear will go into like a hot rodded 800, and I've got it on the first, so just like on a plexi.
Okay.
And the gain on it made it's barely getting halfway. So
wow.
So it's pretty low. It's very low gain. But I just get, it's for me. It's the right hand is a lot of it, and then even the volume on the guitar, I can back it right off. I can make it totally clean just by backing the volume off and just not hitting as hard. Just pretty simple concepts, really.
Yeah. But so organic when you've got the right amp, like you said, right amp, right guitar, and the right approach with your hands and the guitar itself.
Totally, man. I remember, years ago looking at videos of Gary Moore and just checking out like his right hand. He was always, he was just constantly on volume control with the knob.
Yeah.
Like, he was always backing it off, pulling it back up, just off. Never mucking around with pedals. He was always just using the tone, the volume control on his guitar to back it off and then bring it back up, and that was a bit of a revelation to me. And that I've ever since. I play that way too.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that approach.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So let's back it up a little. So you're learning. You're doing the Eric Johnson guitar regime. That's pretty epic already, having gotten across those records as best you can. That's awesome. Yeah. Were you playing in bands? I'm guessing you're sort of in your teens by now. Late teens.
No, I wasn't really playing. I was kind of mucky. I had a few friends at school who, drum and bass kind of. I would always muck around in a trio situation for a bit. It wasn't till after school that I sort of got serious about it. I was playing with my brother. We had an original band called Torch Monde, and we played all around Sydney and Melbourne, and we did a couple of stints overseas, and we were going pretty hard then. And that, of course, that was that was man. There's nothing better for you playing than playing actually sort of in band scenarios, as opposed to the bedroom.
Yeah, sure.
So that was really good, just in terms of the stuff that you learn and just how you grow and develop. So yeah, man, that was my first kind of real sort of live band situation. Was with my brother for a few years. We did that for pretty much from 2000 and if I back up, sorry, I'll back up a little bit before then. I did start getting pretty serious with some other guys, even Rob Poulton or Bobby Poulton, who I actually currently play with at Frankie's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We kind of got together through an ad in the drum media, and at that time I was right into sort of the 1986 Steve Vai era of David Lee Roth and all that sort of thing, that same period with, Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, Jake E. Lee, Warren DeMartini, all that stuff. So we would get together, myself, Bobby, and my brother Jordan, and just basically jam out a lot of those tracks. I remember I found a book at Utopia Records. It was this best of Steve Vai, but only in his tenure with David Lee Roth. So it was awesome. It had all the Yankee Rose, Shy Boy, Big Trouble. It had the best stuff from those two David Lee Roth albums that Steve Vai was a part of. And man, that was probably the next time when I kind of kicked it up another notch in terms of just my discipline, and just I really put a lot of time and effort into absorbing as much of that as I could. And so we really kind of we worked hard, just rehearsing and just working on our playing. So yeah, that was a great time too. And yeah, man, a year or so after that, I had the original band with my brother. And we gave that a bit of that was a bit of a hard slog. We gave that a big push, and it was awesome. Don't get me wrong, it was great. But it was sort of costly, and it was hard work.
Sure.
Doing the original thing and going overseas, every kind of 6 to 9 months, and then coming back and just realizing how much money you'd spent on the whole thing. And so after that is when I thought, should do something that's a little bit kind of, lower pressure in Sydney, and then there were other factors at play that led to, us starting up this gig at Frankie's, which is like a residency that's every Monday, that's been going since it opened in 2013, or opened in 2012, and we kicked off at the beginning of 2013. So yeah, man, it's been close to 4 years now there.
That's great. So the band you're talking about there, that's Frankie's world famous house band.
Yeah, Frankie's world famous house band. Yeah,
which is great, at Frankie's Pizza.
Yeah.
That's a legendary gig. Talk us through how that whole thing works. That's really cool.
Well, like I was saying, towards the end of 2012, that venue was being opened, and it was being opened with the help of my brother Jordan, who is the drummer who I'd been playing with for years, and he was kind of tapped to help with the opening process, with his kind of creative vision to basically open this a kick-ass rock and roll bar in Sydney. And so they opened at the end of 2012, and around this time, just by almost complete sort of fluke, I was talking to Bobby and Dave, who's the drummer, and we had been talking about starting a band and just like playing and getting a residency somewhere. And I put the idea to my brother Jordan, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, well let's give it a go." And had a meeting with the other owners, and just said, "Look, this is what we want to do. We want to have a night, like a residency here every Monday," which was sort of a crazy enough idea, it being on a Monday,
yeah.
Yeah, because it just sort of wasn't done. We thought, why don't we just we get a gig together on a Monday, and between the three of us, we'll see how many singers we can sort of find to be interested in it, and what we want to do is we just want to play here every Monday night, or just the stuff that we want, none of the kind of cliched stuff that you hear everywhere else, just all the awesome obscure rock and roll that you never hear out, and the stuff that turns us all on. And we want to do it every Monday with a different singer. And the guys were like, yeah, okay, sweet. So that's basically how it all started. And when they gave us the green light, we didn't have anyone to sing. So, we had to really kind of pool our resources and get in contact with people. And we were really, really lucky that we were able to pull that off, at the 11th hour, getting people in to basically get this gig off the ground for us. And it's, don't get me wrong, it's been very hard work, because we've had to work so hard to present, a high quality product every Monday to keep people interested, to, keep coming back. And man, it worked and paid off. That first kind of few months when we were there, we were rehearsing, we were getting together a couple of times a week and just coming up with this repertoire of songs, and let's play this, and let's, and it was none of the normal stuff. It was everything from kind of like Pantera to the Kinks to Megadeth, and now we're doing stuff by the Winery Dogs, and we're just trying to push it, push ourselves as players, and you can tell that the people in the audience, like that's kind of what that's what we've become known for.
Yeah,
cool. Like we don't kind of take it easy up there. We really go hard, Otherwise, why are people going to come and see it,
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing. Like you said, there's not a lot of really rocking venues in Sydney at the moment. I mean, there's lots of cover work going on. I do plenty of it myself, and there's a whole set of repertoire, but none of the stuff you mentioned gets on there. So, that's cool.
I mean, when we were sort of, talking to the singers out there, and that was one of the hard things to get across. I mean, come and do a gig with us, on a Monday, and can you do some Dio for us? It's like, people, what do you want about? But we just it had to be different, and it's worked, like people love that, and it's still a bit of a stressful gig, like we get there and we kind of set up, and myself. So I should mention the guys who are actually in the band. So it's just myself, Bobby Poulton on bass, and Dave Ferry on drums, right? So it's just the three of us. And, we get there and, we set up and we kind of we slam a few beers, and then we go down into behind, backstage, and we have a rough idea about what we're going to do. And, then we start going over the tunes, and we get out there, and it's become sort of a bit synonymous with musos that come and they're checking it out, and you can sort of see it. There's a bit of judgment there, like you play and you can see the guys out there kind of taking notes and sort of waiting for us to kind of drop the ball a bit. So I still get nervous doing the gig, before the curtain opens, we're all looking at each other, and we'll have our two little we always have a couple of shots of legendary Japanese scotch just before the curtain opens, and then we just go for it.
There you go. I know. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of musos who go because they love the gig though, and they love what you guys are doing. So
yeah, that's true. Man.
It's actually become a bit of a hang for musos. Hey, there's some really touring bands will come and check it out now, and
oh mate, yeah, absolutely, and we always wanted that, and that has happened. Every time. Whenever Soundwave has been here, we've had so many guys who've been part of these international touring acts, and big acts, man, who've come and checked it out, and then they've come back again, and then they've got up with us,
awesome.
that play, and that was a bit of a turning point for us. Like I remember, people be sending me screenshots of stuff that these big dog heavy hitter players would be writing on their Facebook page about us, what I mean? Wow. And I thought, we're doing something really well here. And then we had and that was going on, and then eventually like say for example, then Bruce Kulick had heard about us from other mates of his from there who had played with us on stage, and then he contacted us saying, man, I'd love to do a gig with you guys, playing, basically a live 3, Kiss a live 3.
Wow.
Yeah, and so stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff that we wanted to be doing. Basically backing up international guys who come here. And being up for the challenge and being able to do it as good as, if not better than how they'd done it in the past in the outfits that had made them famous.
That's awesome, man. So
Yeah.
so that's Bruce Kulick of Kiss, obviously, and Grand Funk.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
been playing with them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was running through some of the guys. You had Brian Nutter as well sitting with you from Keith Urban's band and
Keith Urban. Oh man, we've had heaps, man. We've had like Marco Mendoza. He always comes and sees us every time he's here.
Yeah.
He's been in Thin Lizzy, Whitesnake. Man, even his own trio. Richard Fortas, from Guns N' Roses. Last week Mark Evans from AC/DC. He's always there.
awesome.
There's a pretty big list. The guys from Steel Panther, the guys from Tommy Clefitos from Ozzy Osbourne. Man, there's been a lot over the years. I'd have to jot them all down, but there's been a few, and man, it's always awesome when they do that.
Cool, man. That's great. That's so good. How about some of the locals that you've brought in? I know Randall Waller has been is maybe one of your more regular guests that you get in.
Yeah. Well, he was Well, heaps of times we've played with him. Randall, he's a great friend of mine, and he kind of introduced me to a lot of guys, because he knows a lot of guys,
sure.
and he's a great player and a great guy.
Yeah, fantastic.
So he gets up and does stuff with us heaps.
Nice. And I've seen Chris Kimzalos has done a few gigs as well.
Oh mate, he's awesome. We did a Whitesnake night. We've done it twice actually now, and we had Marco Mendoza, who plays bass for Whitesnake. He got up and played with us. We had Chris do that entire gig with me, and he's just a massive rock pig. Even though a lot of his gigs aren't necessarily
sure,
necessarily like that.
Yep.
He's very diverse.
Yes.
He can do anything, but at his core, he's just a filthy rock pig. And so when I said to him, man, we want to do this Whitesnake night, all Whitesnake, just, do you want to jump on it with me? He's like, oh, totally. So we had the best time, just coming up with the set list, and say who wants to do what solos and all that stuff. And mate, he is so on the money, just perfect touch, and for me, with guitarists, it's always about how they hold a note, you know what I mean? The sort of the control, their vibrato, just how they do the simplest things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so interested in the tricky stuff you do. It's what you make simple things sound like, and he is so good with that stuff. He can do, seriously technical stuff too, but it's just his touch, just his finesse, his tone, his phrasing, all the stuff that actually, I think, moves listeners. I think that's the stuff that is sort of most important to me. So, yeah, man, to get back to your question, yes, I played with him, and I very much enjoy playing with Chris.
Yeah, cool, man. What's coming up for that gig, the Frankie's gig?
Well, man, funnily enough, I had this Monday off, which was, we're very excited actually when we have a Monday off, because we get a week to breathe and sort of regroup and get a game plan. So, man, we've just got just more of the same gigs coming up. Really, I've got some stuff that's happening in July, which it hasn't been confirmed yet, so I can't actually, I can't sort of, I can't mention it.
Fair enough.
But it will be, if we can pull this one off, it's going to be really exciting.
Cool.
But yeah, man, it really, we're just really excited about getting together every week and trying to add new, really sort of challenging, or not just challenging stuff, but just songs that we really love, and just giving ourselves the challenges of, can we pull off this sound?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get this vibe across? That that's pretty much what we work towards.
Yeah, awesome.
Every Monday.
Nice, man. So amidst all this stuff, you get the rose tattoo gig. How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've known Angry for years. I'm going to do outside of the Frankie's gig. I mean, I do the odd sort of corporate gig, with Angry, Paul Christie from Monde Rock, Randall Waller, as mentioned, and quite a few other guys who have had, successful bands, in the past and even sort of still are today. So with that, I mean, I sort of had a feeling when Guns announced that they were going to play, that they were going to ask Rose Tattoo
Mm-hmm.
to support, and then sure enough they did.
Yeah, awesome. Because they're big fans of the Tats, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Oh, they totally are.
That's cool.
I mean, they love Angry, and and so that was a no-brainer when I was asked to be a part of that. That was a pretty full-on experience. Just seeing how it all works at that level.
Uh-huh.
Gigs where there's 80,000 people there, and just how full on the gigs itself, the gigs were awesome, but everything else, like, it was actually quite stiff, like just the management and security, and God, if you want to go and take a piss, you need 5 passes to do that, and it was a bit sort of hectic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I suppose it sort of has to be when there's just sort of so much riding on a gig, when there's that many people that have paid that amount of money to go and see a show. There's just no room for error,
Sure.
So the vibe kind of backstage was, it was pretty intense, but for me, I mean, like, Gunners are like one of my all-time favorite bands, and Axl Rose is my all-time favorite singer.
Yeah, wow.
So to see him, and man, to see that guy in the form that he was in, I mean, that was just unbelievable. So it was such, and even seeing the way they get to the stage, like police escorts to the stage.
Wow.
For the band. We have to sort of hide and hover behind
Really?
some door while they do that, and then Axl being driven up in a like a full motorcade, and
Wow.
the band start playing. Axl's not there, but as soon as they hit that first note, then the door opens and he just bolts up on stage.
Wow.
Like, witnessing it was full on. When I was sort of thinking to myself, I'm witnessing how the biggest band in the world basically go about their business. This is how it is. So seeing it with my own eyes was, yeah, man, it was full on. And the gigs were good. The gigs were awesome. It was just got up there and, man, just plugged it directly into an 800 and just cranked it and just fucking went for it.
That's awesome. So they had, obviously, so this backline for you guys. You just rock up with your guitars.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when I do that gig, I mean, it's a bit different to, it's very meat and potatoes. Like, we're
Sure.
talking serious, straight ahead rock and roll. I mean, I'm not even playing leads.
Yeah.
So there's no spice or flavor. It's all attitude. So it's just my Les Paul direct into like a hired JCM 800.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it, man. And that's the sound. That's all I need to do. And then, man, just play from the heart and just enjoy what you're doing. And that's when that gig works.
Yeah, cool. So did you get to see, like, are Gunners even running sound checks and things? Are you getting to see that stuff in the afternoon?
Mate, the first thing I saw, like, in Brisbane, it was 7th of February. It was actually my birthday, and I was thinking, this is a pretty cool birthday. We got out of our van and walked towards the stadium, which was, of course, empty, and they were sound checking. And, like, when the stadium's empty, it just looks so big. And they were sound checking. It's so easy, and it was just Duff singing because, of course, Axl, I guess, doesn't go to sound checks. But yeah, man, absolutely every show they sound checked,
Uh-huh.
and they were so good. You know, they were really professional and their sound was good, and they killed it every night.
Yeah,
Seriously,
wow.
they were so good.
Wow. Did you get to meet any of those guys?
I know Richard, so you know we sort of caught up.
Yeah, because
Frank,
he's been doing the rhythm, like the Izzy kind of job for this tour, hey?
yeah,
Cool.
he's basically kind of morphed into this modern day Izzy,
Uh-huh.
you know, obviously with a ton more facility. Like he's an incredible player, but he just does he's stepping into the full rhythm player's shoes.
Yeah.
You know, the real kind of like Izzy, Keith Richards, that whole
Yeah,
vibe. His guitar
yeah.
quite low. He's got these big, awesome kind of hollow body Gretches
Yeah,
into
right.
really kind of vintage sounding amps.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, him, Frank the drummer, Duff and Slash, met them, but I didn't meet Axel, of course.
Sure.
You know, I just can't get too close to the god. You see, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say like him being in such good form because obviously he's got a reputation for being a bit messy, but it seems like since the band's reformed, and him doing all that AC/DC stuff too, he's smashing that stuff.
Mate, I mean, everyone was up in arms when that was announced. You know, oh my god, you can't get anyone to do AC/DC, let alone this. You know, and all you need to do is check out the videos. You know, I mean, he killed it. I don't know how else to put it. I can't believe how much he killed those AC/DC songs, and he's got them back up into standard. So they're playing, for the last few years, AC/DC have had to go down to E flat, which of course, I guess eventually happens to bands as they get older.
Sure.
But they're back playing this stuff in standard, and they're playing this, and they're playing all this stuff that they've never played before. Like
the Bon Scott era stuff.
Yeah, Bon Scott's like Touch Too Much, and there's some other things that they've never played with Brian. And man, not taking anything away from Brian.
Sure.
But the point I'm making is like, the facility that Axel has vocally, it just kind of, it was a bit of a rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that, I mean, I knew that, that he'd be killing the gun stuff too, and he did. But I was that close to him. I was right underneath him, just watching him go, and every note. And anyone who was at the show would probably corroborate it. He killed it vocally, and man, hard work. That weekend, if you remember, in Sydney, it was like 1 billion degrees.
Oh, it was so hot. Yeah.
And at the guitar we had, he fainted. Someone did a temperature check on the stage, like the actual ground. It was 71 degrees.
Oh.
Hard work. It was hard physical work to get through that gig. And those guys, they worked hard.
Oh man.
And he was hitting every note. It was the best.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. Hey, there's no, like, they're obviously not running tracks. They're all smashing this stuff out live.
No.
That's awesome.
It was all very real, right in front of my face. It was so good.
So you must have been at the show where Angus turned up as well.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. It was how good was that? Like, what an added bonus for the punters,
Yeah.
Just getting up there, and the best thing about that was, seeing this guy in his little sort of like outfit from Lowe's. It wasn't even his schoolboy outfit.
Yeah.
He was just wearing a white shirt, just those legendary Lowe's jeans, and just, man, and it was such a good night. It was awesome. That was both nights actually. That was Friday and Saturday in Sydney. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, cool, man. What's it like playing with Di Pritchard from Rose Tattoo? He's a cool player.
Yeah, he's great, man. Really, really on the money. Just very consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and tone wise, again, like straight into the amp. The only time I get to play with him is really in that tat scenario.
Okay.
I did the gigs I did on the weekend were with him as well.
Okay.
They're doing what they're doing is like a show called Tats Live in Brunswick, and they're basically replicating a 1982 live recording from.
I heard about that.
From Brunswick. Yeah, so
awesome.
that's actually been that's been awesome. That that whole idea of, doing an album front to back and trying to get that vibe. And so that's what we did on the weekend in Queensland. And for him, I love playing with him. He just plugs directly into the amp, pretty much same as what I'm doing. In that situation, and he's a bit of a leader. He's especially in the Tats. He's been with them for the last kind of 10 years plus. Looks like a silverback bear, a big gorilla. So we just let him be the leader. Yeah.
That's cool. Nice. So you've you're doing heaps of this cool sideman kind of stuff. Is there? You mentioned your originals project earlier, Torch Le Monde. Is there any plans to end up doing more of your own stuff eventually, or even just more on your own terms? As you said, the touring cycle is tough.
Yeah, definitely. There are times when it all just sort of depends on, I guess, when you've got the inspiration to just come up with original stuff. I'm always sort of coming up with riffs, and I'll record them and just sort of keep them there in the back burner. And definitely we will. I might do it, with Torch again, or we might. Who knows, man? We might even start chucking some original stuff, out there when we do Frankie's. With some of the guys that we get up there now, like even with Randall and even with Lockie Doley. He's this sort of maniac keys player, like a Hammond guy, and we just said to him, mate, if you want to do some of your original stuff, then let's do it. So we've done that with him, original stuff with him, and
great.
We might end up just, we might just sit down one day and say, man, put the covers, let's just write some stuff. And that's something we've spoken about, and we definitely could do that. So yeah, man, the answer to the question is yes, but it's one of those things that you kind of got to wait for it. It's got to be organic, when you need to have sort of organic inspiration to start writing things, and I wouldn't want to sit down and say, well, now I need to come up with a song and a riff and all this sort of stuff. It will happen. I just don't know when. Probably. Yeah, sure. Maybe this year or something like that. We might kind of knuckle down and some chuck some original stuff into the mix. That's always been something that we've spoken about. That's been on the back burner for sure.
So, what's the best way to keep up to date with what you're up to this year, Joel?
Oh man, just on Facebook and just checking out the Frankie's page.
Yeah.
When things come up, I'll generally, I'll chuck it up on Facebook. I've got a few more of these Live in Brunswick dates coming up.
Yeah, great.
Doing a few more interstate, and then there's going to be one that's at the Bridge Hotel. That'll be the Sydney one we do, and that's cool. Could be May 11, but that's going to be great because that'll be, the Sydney show basically.
Yeah, nice.
And man, there's always stuff going on. Just Facebook really is where I kind of announce all that stuff.
Yeah, great. Very cool. That's awesome, man. It's been so good. So good to catch up with you and hear about all this stuff you're doing. Sounds good.
Yeah, man. No, it's been great chatting to you, man. Glad we could finally get around to doing it.
Yes, and thanks to Jay Perino who put me onto you. Did Jay do a gig with you guys? Is that his connection?
Jay had, man, I've known Jay for years, and he's he's so busy, and he turned up to a gig, and I said, mate, let's do a few songs. So yeah, man, he jumped up with us cool. and did a few songs, and yeah, it was great guy, and great player, and man has a pretty serious guitar collection, and
yes.
So if I ever need to know anything about the latest guitar, I can always ask him because he's probably already bought it and sold it. Yeah.
He's the guy. Cool. So that's cool. Yeah. So thanks, Jay. Thanks for hooking Joel and myself up. That's awesome. And Joel, I'll see you at Frankie's on a Monday sometime soon.
Yeah, mate, for sure. I've got to get you up. We'll have a jam.
Cheers. All right, there you go. My conversation with Joel McDonald. It was great meeting up with Joel, and I am literally, as I record this little tag at the end of the interview, I'm literally an hour and a half from jumping in my car and going to check out a gig at Frankie. So I'm really looking forward to that. But what a great player and what a great student of the guitar, just really passionate about it, and obviously still very much so this far into his career. That's really inspiring. All right, now if you're enjoying the Guitar Speak podcast, remember you can get to all of our past interviews as well and check those out. We spoke to Randall Waller, we spoke to Jay Perino. Both of those guys were mentioned in the conversation with Joel. You can find those interviews at iTunes or Stitcher, or if you go to guitarspeakpodcast.libsyn.com, the information is there as well. Now, Joel mentioned Chris Kamzalos. What a great player Chris is. Chris is working on some solo material at the moment. So once that is together, Chris and I will have a talk about that. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right, you can keep up to date with all the good stuff going on at the Guitar Speak podcast by following us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. We have a Patreon page if you'd like to support us. That is a great place, a great way to do it, with some rewards as well for you. So if you head to patreon.com/Guitar Speak podcast, that's there as well. I think that's all the info I'm going to tell you about for now. That'll do. I'm going to leave you with a track from a fantastic guitar player, also from Sydney. Simon Rafalo's latest single, Tears, is out, and this is part of an upcoming EP as well. So stay tuned for that. I'll let Simon take us out. Thanks for joining me. My name's Matt Wakeling. I'll catch you next time on the Guitar Speak podcast. Bye now.